In this video, we'll be solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. The problem that we'll be working with is to solve for x by completing the square. 2x squared minus 6x equals negative 3. Now what I'm going to do is give you the steps for solving a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. By completing the square. I'll do that over on this side, and then I'll actually do the step on this side. So step 1 is if a is not equal to 1, divide both sides of the equation by a. Notice that a is the coefficient of the x squared. In our case, a is 2. That number has to be a 1 in order to complete the square. So we have to divide through by 2 on every term, or divide both sides of the equation by 2. And what happens then is the 2's cancel, and I end up with x squared, which is what I want, and then minus 3x, and then on the right side I have a negative 3/2. My next step is to rewrite the equation so that c is on one side of the equation by itself. Now if you look up here at ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, you'll notice that the c is the constant term. A is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. So we need to move that c to the right side if it's not already over there. But in this case, we have our x squared on the left and we have our x on the left, and the c is already over on the right side. So I'll just copy that. That's really not a step that we need to do in this case because it's already over there. Our next step is to multiply the coefficient of x by 1/2. Square this result and add this number to both sides of the equation. So the coefficient of x is 3, and you'll always use that for this step here. So we're going to multiply that by 1/2, and that's actually a negative 3 here. So 1/2 of negative 3 is a negative 3/2. Then we're going to square that result. So a negative 3/2 squared. When you square a fraction, you square the numerator. So negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. And you square the denominator. 2 times 2 is 4. And then you add that number to both sides of the equation. So my equation now is x squared, just copying, minus 3x, but now I'm going to add 9/4 to the left side, and then on the right side I have negative 3/2, and I'm going to add 9/4 on the right side. You have to add to both sides. Now this step I call the half it, square it, add it step, because you half it, which is the coefficient of x. You half it, then you square it, and then you add it to both sides of the equation. Okay. My next step is to factor the resulting trinomial, which is on the left side here, as a binomial squared. So I'm going to take this, and the whole reason for this half it, square it, add it thing is because that forces this left side to be a perfect square when I can factor it. So my first term in the binomial will be the square root of x squared, so that's just x. The operation between the two terms in the binomial is minus, whatever the middle term is, that's the operation. and then the second term in my binomial is the square root of this last term. So the square root of 9/4, square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2. And then we also need to combine like terms on the other side of the equation. So we need to add these two fractions together. We need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2 top and bottom on this one to give me a denominator of 4. So I have a negative 6 over 4 added to 9 over 4. So that now simplifies to 3 over 4. And then just copy. My last step is to solve this equation using the square root property. So I'll square root both sides. When you square root a square, you'll end up with just this underneath part here. So x minus 3/2. And then you also have to remember that when you square root both sides of an equation, you have to write plus or minus. Don't forget that, plus or minus. And then I have the square root of 3/4. Let's add 3/2 to both sides so I can isolate my x. These will cancel, and I have x equals. This radical is irrational, and this is rational, so I can't combine those. I have 3/2 plus or minus. But I am going to separate this into square root of 3 over the square root of 4. Because now I can square root this 4 here and get x equals 3/2 plus or minus root 3 over 2. Square root of 4 is 2.